Welcome, everybody, to season number 4, the Boom and Freezer Show. I am one of the hosts, Scott Frost, with Bobby Hilton, and we have a special episode. But before that episode, I would like to thank our partners, Hilltop Promotions. It's one table, 2 players, 1 winner, and I cannot wait to let everybody know about this. Well, we have a special guest, as I mentioned. I've had a very good relationship with him for several years. We talk quite a bit, and it is Johan Ruijsink. Johan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott, Bobby. Glad to be on.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome to the show. First of all, I want to. Where are you? I love that background. It's beautiful, nice stone wall. Where are you right now?
I'm in front of my house. Normally, I'm inside in the pool room, but I thought it's a nice sunny weather. Almost a summer's day, so summer's evening. So I thought, let's stay outside for one time.
What part of the world are you in, Johan?
I'm in Belgium, which is south of Holland, connected. Speak the same language as in my country, so it's a good place to live for me.
Yeah, and originally, where are you from originally for the people viewing?
I'm originally from the Netherlands.
Oh, you're from the Netherlands. Okay, okay, I had that mixed up.
Don't worry.
All right.
Like Niels, Alex, Nick, all these guys from Holland.
Yeah,
from my group.
So I have a theory. I'm going to start out with this theory, and this I teach all over the country, and I've taught in other places of the world. You've helped me a lot with some of my teaching. You and I have talked in depth during money matches with Tyler and a bunch of other things. We've talked in depth quite a bit, really. A lot of, I don't tell people our business, but I have a theory, and I wanted to get this theory out here right away. With what's kind of happened in America, and it's not a knock to anybody. I'm not knocking anybody, but I talk about this when I'm teaching. So I believe around 30, maybe you can correct me here, maybe 30, maybe even 40 years ago, when the pool leagues started to certify instructors, I believe that this was a catastrophic event because as of late, the last 8 to 10 years of the pool, and I'm not knocking the pool leagues. We need pool leagues. I love pool leagues. I love American pool. So don't get that confused. But when they would pay their $150, $200 to become an instructor, I feel like what happened back then was that those instructors would go to Las Vegas. They'd get their certificate, and they might be a good player. They might not be a good player, but I feel like the information was mixed, and I'm not necessarily certain that the information was great. And what happened when John went to the Northeast and Mike went to the South and Jim went to the West, they started teaching in their pool rooms. And I'm talking 30, 40 years ago. This is my theory. And when they started teaching, it was a trickle effect. I'm just going to fast forward now. I'm going to fast forward, and I'm going to give you 2 sides to this, and I want your opinion. So 30 years later, you really can't tell me 2 American players that play the same or have any fundamentals that are very similar. You really can't tell me that, and if you can, I don't believe it, and I would challenge that. I don't feel like I see 2 American players that are very similar. Now, that being said, I think it was partially because of this, right? And there wasn't really good structure in the United States. There was no foundation. There was no schools. There was nothing like that. That's obviously a big part of it too. So I'm not blaming the leagues. I think this is just a trickle effect, a byproduct of what happened. And I know it's at least carries some weight. But now let's flip the script and let's go to the other side of it. Let's talk about you. Let's say that how long have you been coaching, Johan?
Since 1994, I've been a trainer. Since 2002, I was a coach.
Exactly. Okay. So 30 years. Exactly 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I've been telling people because I've already researched you and I know you quite well. So let's flip the script. Now, we've got a coach like Johan over in Europe, and he is wherever he's at. And he teaches, I'll just give an example, Oliver Ortman, or he runs by Oliver Ortman, or whoever taught Oliver Ortman. And that guy goes to this guy, and this guy goes to that guy. Now, I'm not saying one man can do it, but it's pretty ironic that 30 years later, even 20 years later, and even 15 years later, that literally all of the Europeans have some similarities. Now, those similarities can't all be bad, right? Because what they're doing seems very consistent, seems very forthright, and very, very good. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've talked about this before. I
Yeah.
think in 1990, when we were at the World Championships, there was 8 Americans and 8 Americans in the quarterfinals. So basically, America was on top of the world, and we were behind in Europe. We saw the level of the Americans, so we needed to find ways to get better and to aim for the same level. And I think what we had in Europe more than in America is a connection to the Olympic movement. So that meant that, for example, me, but for example also Alex and other coaches were able to do a coaching education on the highest level on Olympic in Olympic movement, which meant I sat down with 25 other coaches once a month for a weekend, the whole year, and then we got all this information from the highest level, whether it was recovery training, whether it was VO2 max, things that are a lot about athletics skills, but also sports psychology and other systems that we were taught. And that was the highest level. As soon as somewhere in the world there was something revolutionary or innovative, we picked them up, we brought them to Holland, and we made sure that all the coaches in Holland got the same information. And I think that's a little bit lacking in America. There's a lot of trainers and instructors, but they're basically, and again, like you, I don't want to put anybody down, but basically any player that becomes a trainer or a coach is a be like me trainer. If you don't get the right education, then you are very likely to start people instructing the way you play, because that's how it works. That's how you won the US Open, or that's how you won big tournaments. And people look up to you. They think you're a good player, so they do a copy also. But unfortunately, there's 16 different character types and 16 different body types, so everybody needs a different approach for the stroke. Now, that's another thing that we got really big into the stroke, because I immediately felt from day one, that it's a physical movement. Everybody's talking about what's happening in front of you, where you have to bring the cue ball, but it's a physical arm movement that does the job. So you've got to control
it's a what movement, Johan?
a physical arm movement.
Perfect. Right? Okay. Yep.
Yes, and then the next problem or challenge that we have in our sports, and I've done a lot of sports, seen a lot of sports, and there's basically no other sport that actually has a movement that starts behind you and ends up behind you. So a stroke, you kind of never see where it's going because it's always behind you. So that makes that everybody plays or starts playing and shooting on result. So when you make a ball, then you think, okay, that's the right way to do it. But you can't see your own arm, and your arm might be completely out. So you need some instruction to make sure that you start with a straight arm, because that obviously is the best way to start, with straight arm. And I think that's also a little bit the reason why in America there's so many styles. When you go to volleyball in Europe, to volleyball club, basketball club, football club, you're introduced, and then you are put into a selection or a team, and there's a trainer. So they introduce you to the trainer, and then you start to do drills and train. When you go to pool center, you get the balls, and good luck, and you have to find it out yourself. And that's where it's very difficult to become a good player, because you're very likely to start with some flaws to your technique, and then you start to compensate because you get better, and so you can manage to make balls, but they're all from maybe very likely the wrong arm position, and then you have to compensate with the wrist, and in the end, if you don't build a structure for your pool players, for your instruction, for your preparation, for your supporting of your players, then you're dependent on individual talents. Individual talents are very motivated, and that can go on top. If you build a structure, then everybody that goes through the structure, through this system, through this method, will have a certain basic level. For example, if you look at Germany, there's a reason where there's so many good German players. right? Because they all play in the same structure and the same method and the same system.
Do you think that because of, and you and I've talked, we have not talked about this, just so people know, all of this is raw and real. When you're telling me what you told me, especially in the beginning right there, do you feel like there versus now, you know, the Buddy Halls, the Earl Stricklands, the Mike Siegels, the Nick Varners, do you think there was an abundance of players back then when they were in their era, their youth, which there was, Kim Davenport's, I mean, yeah, you could go on and on.
Yeah.
Do you think versus now, there was a lot more to choose from back then? And even then, Coach, even then, nobody had the same style. Nobody.
No, correct. I just think there was no competition. There was a couple of
Producing.
there's a couple of guys from Asia, but again in 1990, Ruysink was there, Ottoman was there. There was a couple of really good players, but we just couldn't beat the Americans at the time. So I think there was just no competition, and I think that's also the reason why America got a little bit complacent, like we're the best. So you know, we if you want to use open in that time, you were the world champion. Right?
So a lot of ways we're saying the same thing in a lot of different ways. Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, a byproduct of what's happened is the past, and we're obviously wanting to talk about the future, but and we can't replace what's happened up to this point. And we might as well say it if the people don't know. Johan was just elected as captain of Team USA again, and I was a big proponent online when he first got chosen. I was, you know, the Americans didn't like it. Johan doesn't beat around the bush. He's pretty, I was telling my partner off camera, you know, and I think that's why he's a great coach. He's a pretty serious guy. And I think that that's what you've got to be. He's an elite coach. He's the best coach in the world. I don't care what you want to say. That's my opinion. Alex Laley's great. Niels is awesome. They're all great. And I think they're all big benefits to programs. But Johan doesn't really beat around the bush. In 2018 and 2019 are the last 2 years that America's won the Mosconi Cup, and Matchroom Pool has just elected him to become captain again. And I can personally tell you, Johan, that I'm grateful that you are, because this country needs you. And I said this back in 2017 when you were chosen.
Well, I want to take care with that kind of phrases, because it feels sometimes that, you know, I come from a different country, different continent, and you know, I might sound arrogant. I might sound like I know it all. The fact is that the development of European pool has been a little bit in the shades for American players. So America doesn't really know how we went about to catch up and to actually go in front of America as far as level goes, especially in the quantity of players. We got so many good players, and the way we reached that is very important to look at, because that is basically your benchmark to do the same, or even better, or even smarter, so that you can catch up. And you know, I would love to see 25 American players in the top 100 of the WNT ranking, but they're not. So there's just too little players at the moment that are either playing the tour or can't play it financially, motivation, I don't know, but there should be much more players, and the talent is there. I just looked at the Landon Hollingsworth against Colombiado, first round UK Open. This guy can play, right? These are really good talents. Yes, and Henderson, Pay McBride, Lazar, you know, Hayden Ernst. There's so many talents at the moment in America, and at the moment I feel that they understand that they do need to train, right? In the old days, it was just playing 9-ball or 8-ball, 10-ball, or straight ball, not so much straight ball, but they just played. Now I feel that the youth and the younger players are more also into drills and into training practice.
There's a 14-year-old Colston Harrison here, and you should YouTube him as well if you get a chance. I don't know if you know about him. Obviously, Hayden Ernst. You and I have talked about Hayden. Well, this Colston Harrison and Hayden play like dead even. Colston can win. But Colston's playing big money matches here. He's 14 years old. He's playing big money matches. He's running 3, 4, 5 racks on a big table at 14. So to your point, there is talent here. It's got to be exposed. But he reached out to me, this Colston Harrison, you can see flaws, and you can see, as a coach, I know you'll be able to see flaws in their game fundamentally that could really expose themselves as they get older, when the nerves start to get a little different. So, and I gave him just one little piece of advice because he had some pretty big body movement, right? Pretty heavy at 14 years old. And I just gave him a little piece of advice. And I think we're going to have him on the show. But to your point, I hope that I'll just let you go there, but I would just really want to mention Colston, because I think he's also, if we can get him out of that money world, because I learned the hard way back in my era. It was too easy to make a lot of money. And when I finally decided to transition to the tournaments, it was very tough. Any major I ever won, I feel like I got lucky, and I didn't play 70% of my game, which is very common anyway. But I'd like to transition them out of the major money games and get them more into the tournaments. But to your point, also financially, it's a problem for a lot of these people.
Well, it's a big tour, right? If you want to play all the tournaments, you need a lot of money.
Yeah,
I heard some of the top players talk about their travel expenses throughout the whole year, and it's quite a lot. So you basically have to be in the top 20 in the end of the year to earn some sort of money, simply because you've got tens of thousands of dollars for all your expenses.
Well, now I got a question for you. So there's obviously hardships on both, overseas and America, right? But the players from Europe and overseas seem to have that structure, right? And they all not coming from money. They're all not coming from a lot of money. So what's the biggest difference for the young ages when they're learning basically 14, 15, or what do you think?
Well, what we did, or what is I think a good way to go is, until a certain age, let's say 15, 16, you would like them to play regional events, American events, and it's doable. It makes them more likely to win, which is very important. Because as a coach, one of my things is that I know you have to learn from your failure. Like fail forward is the term, but I think it's very important to learn from your winnings, because when you win, you did everything right, and when you fail, there's a lot of things that you can do wrong. So you can make a lot of mistakes, but once you get to the winner circle, that's what you like to copy, because then everything went really well. Your preparation, your mental attitude, your sleep, whatever, everything went well. So that's what you want to copy. So again, if you get into a regional circuit where you're more likely to win, have a little bit less strong opponent, but still are able to play a lot, that's the way to go for me. And then when they're 16, 15, 16, depending on their talent and their level, you can bring them to international levels, international tournaments. And then, it would be really good to have someone around as a coach to accompany them to these tournaments and make sure that they do the right things, that they focus on the right things. They're all young, so they have a lot of distractions, especially nowadays on the social media and the phone. So you constantly got to keep them sharp. So you got to be there as a coach.
Yeah. So just saying that to Bobby's question and what you just said, you've got to be there as a coach. I mean, that in itself, let's just say I shadowed you every day for the next 3 months. Mm-hmm. Well, you still got to get that information to the players, and maybe I can't be with the players at all these events, right? So how does that get remedied?
Well, that's why you need coaching education, because trainers education is all about technique. Coaching is about the character, communication, mental skills, and in order, let's say you have a very good player. Most of the really good players, you don't really need to tell them what to do. You need to find ignition. You need to find something that makes them like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to really play my best. If you play a lot of tournaments, then sometimes you get a little bit, lazy, or it's not so important. So I think it's important that you keep them focused and that they play the right tournaments, and you give them structure.
When you talk about great pool rooms and great partners, we've got to talk about one of ours. It's Metro Sports Bar and Grill, and it's sports with a Z on the end. Metro Sports Bar and Grill is a 10,000 square foot pool room filled with diamond tables, a great sports bar, and they're now the host of the Phoenix Open, which is the biggest ranking event in the United States for the World 9-Ball Tour this year. Metro Sports Bar and Grill, please check them out.
Classic Billiards, Dave Bartosiak, the man, a huge sponsor of the Boom and Freezer Show. Not only that, a huge supporter in all the pool. He sponsors many professional pool players. He has big things going on there. He ran the PLP. He also have a WNT event going on. He's even doing Ultimate Pool. If you haven't been there in South Florida, check out Classic Billiards. My man Dave Bartosiak is doing it and doing it right. Check out the link is in the bio. That's Classic Billiards, everybody. All right, everybody, we got Wayne Harriman, the Sandman. That's right, Wayne Harriman, the Sandman, a proud sponsor of the Boom and Freezer Show. He's been with us since day one. What he is a huge supporter of the world of pool, and we're very happy to have him as a sponsor. That's right, you heard it, Wayne Harriman, the Sandman. You're the best, man. Something you said there about like the younger players have to win. In America, sometimes with the gambling matches, like you mentioned, Colston, Scott, at a young age, you know, they're getting that winning automatically when they're playing for the cash games, right? Where if you got to go to these regional tournaments and play in big events like that, you know what I mean? They get the winning right away. That it's a different mindset.
Yeah, exactly. He's aware of that, right? But it's hard, right? When you're, and I don't want to. I can just tell you this: he's earned well over $50,000. I'm not going to put a number on it. I've got an idea. Well over $50,000 in the last few weeks.
Yep.
Okay. He's 14 years old. He's beat everybody he's come across, like everybody. It's not even close. So when you get a taste of that, when I was young, we didn't have social media. We didn't have camera phones. I wasn't going around lying to people, telling them a different name, but I was making money anywhere I went. I earned over $20 million in a period of like 15 years gambling. So it's very hard to make that transition. What's even harder is for somebody like Colston to do what he's doing right now, nowadays, because there is no good game, right? Like he's in a pretty tough game every time he's playing. So on one side, I want coach's opinion on this. On one side, I think it's okay for him. But on the other, I feel the longer that goes, the different, because tournament pressure is a completely different animal. It's not even in the same ballpark. It's not even in the same ballpark, gambling and tournament pressure.
No.
What are your thoughts there?
Well, let me give you an example. When I started with Niels after 85, 94 we started, 98 he said I want to go to America, I want to play for money. So we brought him to America to Joe Kerr, the WTA chairman at the time. He brought him to some other guys, Chetlik and Bert Kinnister, and they traveled around and they played. At that time, Alex played tournaments. Alex won the World Tour Masters. So after 2 years, Niels comes back a couple of times, went to America, comes back, and then sometimes he says, listen, there's no good games for me anymore. I have to play really good players, and it's too tough. I want to transform to a tournament player. And that took some time because, again, in money, you lose one set, you put another money, more money, and you play another set, and you play another set. In the tournament, if you lose, you go home, shower, take your plane, and bye-bye. So it's like you said, it's a different pressure, and you need to learn how to divide, especially your energy, because tournaments are far longer than a money match, unless you play race 120, of course.
Sure.
But a tournament is 1.5 hours play, 6-7 hours wait. How do you fill in this 6-7 hours wait? How is it possible that one guy plays 11 o'clock round, plays great, no mistakes, and then at 3 o'clock round, suddenly he plays like shit. So what did he do in between? How do you keep someone warm? It's very important not to stay focused all the time. You got to relax. You got to recharge. All these things are important in tournament play, whereas in money play, it's basically just go, 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 go.
Yeah, that was the biggest struggle. That was the biggest struggle for me when I made that transition. I would play a great match, but then I would go up to my room and literally start like going crazy because I'm sitting there waiting. I couldn't sleep. I can't sleep. I'm like, I can't take a nap. I don't want to eat a big meal. I don't know. I just didn't know what to do. Right. I didn't have real good. I didn't have any direction.
Yeah.
And also, when you play a lot of money matches, I feel that it is very tense. It's a different tension than in tournaments, because it's your own money, or most time, and it kind of stiffens up your technique. Also, is very likely. And when you play a lot of money matches and you earn money, are you very likely to still practice? Are you going to practice in between, or are you going to wait for the next money match?
Yeah.
So is it I feel that if you play a lot of money matches, you get sharper maybe, but your level and your expansion of your technique is stopped.
Very good point.
Doesn't grow as much as it should. And I feel this definitely on that age. If that's your level and you reach a ceiling because you play a lot of money tournaments, I understand, because it's a lot of money, right? Especially for a young guy.
Sure.
But if you want to become a world champion nine ball, the money matches should be added value, and it shouldn't be your main target, in my opinion.
Right.
Those are some of the best points I've heard, by the way. Great points right there.
Yeah, no, I like
actually, when I train with the big guys, right? Most of the time, the training is about getting maximum relaxed, because they always play under tension. So now, when we come to the training table, they can really start to play with maximum loose grip, everything loose again, to make sure that, if you have a plastic reed like this and you want to go like this, then you don't push it like this, because it comes back halfway. So what we're trying to do is to on the train do maximum relaxation, exaggeration, and then it comes back to straight. So hopefully after a week of training, players are more relaxed and are more about the process again, instead of just about results.
It's funny. I sorry, Bobby. I just worked with a high level player. He wanted me to stay confidential, and I will, obviously. When I started commentating, I never thought I was going to become a coach. I never thought I was going to teach. People don't really understand how much work I've put into this, and what I've really studied was more on the European side, because of the amount of different styles in America. I've studied more of the European side because they're easily identified when you look at their starting points, right? When I say their starting points, I'm just talking, let's just talk routine. When you look at the routines, they're all very similar, very similar. Even the ones with the snooker stance are very similar, right? Some have a different stance. Some might be quicker around the table than others, but I really diagnose that. I've taken video of the backswing and the delivery. I've condensed a lot of different things, and I'm pretty certain I'm on the right track. But one man band can't. I just don't. I think we're one of the problems. We had a referee on the other day on the show, John Lehman, and he's the only really top referee here in America. Okay. In this sport, and it is definitely a sport, there's no question. I could debate that with anybody and it wouldn't last long, that debate. But in order for it to be a sport, we have to have athletes, right? But in this sport, it seems like there's not a lot of room because, and I'm not blaming promoters, but because stereotypically over the years, the promoters have shifted individually and kind of there's been walls built. But when you get good at something like John Lehman or yourself, it doesn't feel like in America I'm talking, that there's enough room to have several of them, right? Why can't there be multiple coaches? I guess where I'm going with this is I think that without some type of schooling or something like that, I don't feel like we're going to catch a gear without it. I just feel that way.
Well, the problem or the challenge that you have as a coach or a trainer is that you need to know 100% in order to bring 5% of information to your players, because you can't, all this information that you've received, that you have gathered throughout the years and the analysis you've done, you can't bring that to your players. You give them ready to go instructions and in the right way, so that otherwise you get paralysis by analysis. So you can't really put too much, but that means that your knowledge and your experience and the variety of players and styles and methods you work with must be so big that you can actually apply something personal to every player and not just a general idea.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you put Alex Line and Ruslan Svinnikov next to each other, and you're going to train the same thing, that doesn't work. You got a guy of 155 and a one of 2 meters 10.
Yeah, it has to be customized. It has to be customized to the player.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the hard thing. And that's what I feel. And again, I don't want to sound arrogant or know it all, but I feel that the American instructors have educated their players to run eight ball on a 7-foot table in quite a short time. And then as a coach, you get a lot of compliments because the player can already run a table after a year, but they didn't bring them enough knowledge and skills in the stroke, in the arm movement. And so
you're talking about from the basics to get them to that next level, right? Because you're going to only reach so far, is what you're saying to the people.
Well, this
out
is
there
what I was talking
exactly.
about. Right?
It's what exactly we're talking about. We need a program, some kind of, in the United States that works where from the beginning, so you're learning the correct way all the way through, so your plateau is not as low, and everybody learning the same thing is what you're getting at. Is what you're both saying, correct?
Well, the good thing is that since you've not done it yet, and you still need to build that structure, now you can look at all the other countries and continents, how they went about, and see what was the best case scenario and what is the best practice, and then try to copy this, taking into consideration the American culture and the American situation. But at least we can copy or steal from other countries, other continents, and see, listen, this worked there. We need support, we need competition, we need good training, we need good training facilities, we need the right material. You're not going to play on a new cloth and then train on old cloth. Things like that need to be in order. Thank you.
I think the other big problem is caring. Yeah, salute. I'm gonna have a cigarette here in a minute. I think the other issue is caring. How much does somebody care? Bobby knows me really well. I'm definitely not pumping my ego up, but I just can't do anything at half speed.
Nothing at half speed.
Anything at half speed. If I'm going to do something, I just don't stop. What I mean by caring is, and I just talked to somebody the other day that's pretty high profile, a CEO of a major billiard company, been around for years. Actually, they're from Belgium. they're from Belgium.
Okay. Then I know.
He's a business partner of mine. So what I mean by caring is I'm talking about really the foundation should be in America for pool are the leagues. And I always go back to them. And I love the league players. We need the league players. I absolutely love them. I think it's great. I get it. Like, these people have jobs. They want to enjoy themselves. They want to get better, but they're not trying to be an elite player. Where I'm concerned are the CEOs and the owners. That's where I'm concerned. And I'm not saying they don't care, but I don't know if they care enough to get behind somebody maybe like me or Jeremy Jones or you and listen to maybe a pitch deck, right? A pitch deck that how this could be funded and what it could do over the next generation, in my opinion, would be miraculous. And I'm just kind of big on that. I continue to tell myself I'm going to take a flight to the APA. I'm going to take a flight to, Shane Van Boning and I are doing something with the CEOs of the VNEA at the end of this month, which I think is amazing. And I just noticed that the APA had Federer. They had Federer there, and a bunch of other great players.
Yeah, they had Efren there and Jeanette Lee there and a lot of big names.
So
big names.
I just worry about the passion of the initial people in these leagues, the operators and owners.
Well, I can't really talk about that because I don't know a lot of them.
Right.
I know some of them. They do care. The thing is that they don't really see the solution because the problem is so big. Your country is big. I mean, look at your ideal situation. That would be ideal, right? Would be if it would be in colleges and schools. And you would have a school competition. Well, good luck in America, right?
Right.
There's 50 states and big cities, how you can create that. So that's why I would always start with top down. So make sure that the talents and the new players are educated and supported, trained well, and then make them a sort of role model. So people start to become more enthusiastic to play 9 foot 9 ball, because that's basically the challenge. There's a lot of players that play pool in America, but most of them play bar table,
Yes.
which is great because
Right.
at least I don't need to explain pool in America to nobody. I still have to explain my mother because he still thinks I'm coaching snooker, because that's a little bit more on television here. But in America, everybody knows pool. So that's already a big advantage. And that's where it starts. The game itself, I mean, we've all played it. I played it when I was 22 for the first time and got addicted. You're probably the same. This game, every shot you do gives you an incentive to either do better the next time or to do it again because it went well, right? Every shot, the next shot, you want to do better or do something else, or it's just a very fun game which has a lot of incentives to grow in what you're doing. And that's what I like about pool. And I think that a lot of people feel that. And when I've been to the national junior championships a couple of times, and when I talk to the parents are all about 9 foot 9 ball champions. That's what they want the kids to be. But in the end, if there's no support, they're going to play money matches. They're going to play 7 foot tournaments because that's where the money is, and that's where most tournaments are. And let's be honest, all 9 foot 9 ball, the competition is quite heavy. At this moment, if you compare it to 10 years ago, the level has increased a lot.
Very much so.
Yeah, thanks to a lot of initiatives, especially WNT, of course, with the World Championships, the 4-inch pockets. It's become really difficult, this game, but it also means that the top players now are on such a high level that I'm actually convinced that all these good players you had in the 80s would now not be able to participate in the top 20 in the world anymore.
Yeah, they'd win matches, but they couldn't. I think it'd be very tough for them to win an event. But yeah.
And just to throw this out there, what the coach is talking about there for the love of the game, two of our sponsors to the Bowman Freezer Show, Andy Gow, like, share, and subscribe, and Wayne Harriman. Like I said, they love the game, they learn the game, they try to help the game. You get that addiction to this game, right? And it's with you forever. Like sometimes people work for free for it, right? And they'll do whatever it takes. This sport is something special. And I don't know, what about you feel about the sport? What makes this sport so special? Why do we have those people like the sponsors and the people that care so much about this sport?
Are you asking me?
Well, yeah, I'm asking you. What do you think? What is it about this sport that brings, like you said, you talked about, people care about it so much and they just fall in love with it?
It's reasonably simple. Like, it's not like golf, like 500 yards. So it's reasonably simple. It is explosive, dynamic, young, colorful, sexy, fast. It's an incredibly good game for the youth nowadays, because they don't like 2.5 hours matches. They like fast. What do you call that? Fast
play, quick play.
Yeah, and so pool is a perfect game for them, for the youth. And it's colorful. Balls disappear. It's aiming, and it's about balls, right? Put the ball somewhere, and the boy steps by and he picks up the ball. Right.
Well, I want to reiterate when I said I don't know if they care. What I'm saying there, just so people understand, is of course the pool league owners and founders care about their business and about the leagues and things like that. Where I'm going with it is, and I truly don't know, and maybe somebody can tell me, because I'd like to sit down with one. Does the owner of the APA care about the elite sport and the best of the best and where they're headed? That's kind of what I meant by that. I don't know if they do or not, but that's kind of what I meant by that. There's everybody in this industry cares too much at times, right? Cares too much at times.
Let's not assume that they don't care. Let's talk to them.
Absolutely.
Let's put them on the table and let's see what they think about it. Because it's obvious that if you want to build a structure, since you do not have the Olympic connection, the Olympic connection gives you funding. Like in Holland, in Europe, the Olympic movement gives you funding. So I think we got like $400,000 for a year to play pool, which is a lot. You can play
That
the
is a
whole,
lot.
yeah, you can play the whole tournament. You can pay the coach's salary. You can do all the flights, hotels, entrance fees for multiple selections. So that's important. But if that Olympic connection is not there, then we will have to find funding in order to build that structure. If that funding is not there, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be by volunteers.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. We won't know or don't know unless somebody speaks with them. And I hope at some point, I'm working on that as well, but you just don't know. I know Bobby wants to switch gears, and I know the fans probably want to switch gears. Well, you are now the captain of Team USA this year.
El Capitan, yes.
Congratulations.
Because I care.
I know you
because
care.
I care. Yeah.
I know you care.
Talked about caring. I care. So that's why I came back.
Yeah. I guess what changes are you? And you don't have to talk. I'm not going to ask you questions that put you in a bad spot. But can you brush over what you would do differently now versus what you did at the end of 2017 or early 2018 last? Can you brush over that?
That's almost 10 years ago, and I feel that in that time, since there was no real world tour, Americans didn't really go outside of the country. Shane probably was, but then most other players were not. So I felt that we needed to go outside and see the world and see the Europeans play, see the Russians play, see how the rest of the world is training, practicing. Because I still remember when we went to Russia, everybody like, oh, you went to Russia, but we went to Russia, we went to the training center, and I put an American player and a Russian player on every table and make them do exercises. So, and I already trained with the Russians for 3 years, so they knew these drills. So the Americans actually, they kind of got beaten on the drills, which is okay, but it showed them that there's more players and there's more people that are really trying to become the best and as what they can be. And I think that kind of woke up us a little bit, and that's not necessary anymore. There's a world tour. Everybody can play internationally, so we don't need to go with a team outside. Another thing that I would do differently is I had 5 picks then, 3 basically. I could pick whoever I wanted. That was the dire situation then. Now I'm kind of confined to 3 picks from the ranking, and then 2 picks after that. And I think that I think everybody knows that we need a little bit of new blood, because we've seen these phases now for 10 years, and it's not been really successful. Although I must say, last year that team would also have been my team. These 5 players, I was completely confident about that was the best team at that moment.
That's when you were watching, that's one of the big questions I had is when you were watching, not be involved in it. What did you see? What did you see the biggest? I don't know what the big word is, but what did you see that was missing from Team America? Was it the confidence that you said, or was it something else, or what was the biggest thing that you missed or you saw that was missing from Team America, from the outside looking in, not being a coach, just being an outsider?
Well, Bobby's going to put you on the spot, just so you know.
I might put you on the spot a little bit.
I'm not. And he and I don't rehearse this. He's good at putting people on the spot. You can tell him you plead the 5th. You don't want to answer, or you can answer.
Yeah, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not trying to obviously shake the cage, but
I understand.
I say what it is.
I understand a lot of people are curious now what we're going to do, what the program will be, who will play, who are the contenders for the Mosconi Cup. It's May, or it's April, May. I think my work starts in July, August, because then it's much more clear about the rankings and about the list of players that are eligible. I think I will look for new faces. I will look for new names, because I think it's important to keep it going. if other players than the 5 or 6 or 7 that are now always the contenders think that they have no chance, then they're not going to play internationally also. So I want to shout out to everybody in America that has any ambition, play the tour, because I will look at you and I will keep you in mind. As long as you bring the quality, intensity, and commitment that is needed for a Mosconi Cup.
Do you think you can answer that question? What he asked you, or what he asked you, Coach, was what did you think was missing the last few years? Not just last year, not as a whole. Since you've been gone, I guess I don't know, and I'm not trying to put this on the leadership by any means.
No.
But do you have a way to? Because I know how difficult. I don't know how difficult this job is, but I have an idea, and I know it's not an easy job. And I know the money is definitely not is not the key to this job.
No, it's
No.
like I said, there's 5 to 7 people that are contenders for the Mosconi Cup in America, basically, and these 5 or 7 guys all have a character, and unfortunately, these characters are very different in America of these 7 players, and it's very hard to bring them together as one group and make them think in the same direction. I don't know if that's leadership. I don't know if it's personal vendetta, vengeance, or whatever. There's a lot of reasons that things can go wrong. I wasn't there. I wasn't involved, so I can only see what I see. But I was there last year as a fan, and that was absolutely shocking. How little like team commitment there was. I felt that as a team we did not show up. I think there was individual players and the level was just not good enough. And you can't, if you look at last year, if you look at the level, some players played so much under their level that can't be anything else than that there's something brewing, that someone was unsatisfied about something. So the first thing I will do now is, make contact with all the players, with the 5 players, and talk about last year and see what they think what happened, so that we don't make that mistakes again. That's one. And obviously, some of these players will be in the next Mosconi Cup because they are absolutely top players. So we need to know what went wrong, not by my observation, but with the real knowledge of what was going on in the team. We have to repair that, and then we have to make sure that we have a better quality in team building. That's probably my most of my task. Probably the boot camps will not be about technical skills or some. It will probably be a lot of team bonding, agreements, how we play as a double, getting better in the leg and the break, because that's the start of the game in a race to 5. That's incredibly important. And we got to be better in the break. If you look at last year, the first 10 breaks of Europe was every time the one in the side. First 10, I think they scratched once, and for the rest it was one inside. We had 6 out of 10 for the first.
2 years ago, same results. 2 years ago was 2 years ago in Orlando. The whole event, we broke from the same spot. Europe broke from a different spot. They broke from the center. They used leather tips. I'm not saying that this made the difference, but I know over time, if you're not getting a shot after the break, there's something to it. They might have been making one, but they were never getting a shot. Europe was constantly coming away with shots. I can see how that's perceived as luck the first day, maybe into some of day 2. But by then, if something doesn't change, something's wrong. But you're right.
Yeah. So that's basically what we're going to do. And then I'm fully confident that we can bring up 5 American players that are very capable of playing against this strong European team and can beat them. We might not beat them because even if you do everything right, also for Team Europe, if you do everything right, you can still lose because it's pool, right? You can be unlucky on the break. You can be unlucky on hill. Remember the match that Skyler played against Albin, where it was a 100% match. Nobody made a mistake. Skyler made one mistake. He rolled too much in the safety. The only mistake in the whole match. and in the end 5-4 to Skylar. That's the kind of level that we have to play, and that's what I'm looking for. We can't miss 3 or 4 balls on a day.
You mentioned the word boot camp, right? And
yeah.
I've mentioned it in some of my lives, and it's not necessarily as it sounds, a boot camp. I know that you're not taking these guys to the shooting range and making them go through physical courses, right? Most of the guys. Yeah, exactly. I think that's so important. Are you planning on starting this camp a little earlier than like right, a couple of weeks prior, or what are your thoughts there?
My wife is doing a lot of my scheduling. She's constantly asking for the timeline, and I'm telling her, listen, I have a plan, but the timeline will kind of direct itself. Because of all the tournaments. We don't really have a big insight yet in the second part of the season as far as the tournaments go. For example, World Championships, we don't know what's going to happen with the World Championships. Obviously, we know there's a US Open, there's Florida Open, but there's still some tournaments that we don't really know. When the program gets better and more filled in, then I can create a timeline for the plan that I have. But
I assume you're going to be here in August in the States.
Yeah. I'll be the whole month. Yeah, because first of all, I want to see the big tournaments for US Open, and in between, I have some people that I want to attend, but also want to see some of the youth players or the new players. Let's put it that way, because not every new player is young, but some people that came up in the last year, I want to look at them, talk to them. People that came back. We need to talk.
You have anybody on your radar at all that you're looking at? I mean, that you already got, a couple that you're looking at, or you're just kind of going in open-minded, looking at everybody?
I'm open-minded, and I don't want to name names because that's gonna put me on the spot in a couple of months. If the guy suddenly goes down or up or whatever. We'll take it as it comes, and we'll make sure that when I started with the Mosconi Cup, right, I got Barry Hearn gave me a team. I had in 7 years of Team Europe, I never had a choice of picking players. I just got a team because Barry Hearn said, "Listen, if you're such a good coach, then you can whatever 5 players you can get, you can make them play." Thank you, Barry. So, but I also thought, in a way, you're right. In a way, you're right, because because they're good, everybody's a good player or great player that qualifies for the Mosconi Cup. My task is to make sure they're ready, right? And that's the only task I have, and that they're a team and that they're ready to shoot and they are supportive and that we have agreements, etc., etc. But in fact, whoever 5 guys come up in November, these guys need to be ready, and that's my task.
Okay.
Is there an age cap on the Mosconi Cup? I know that due to Matchroom, we've kind of gone through this. I talked to Matchroom in depth with Hayden Ernst because he wanted to play, all the majors, and he's now 15, I believe. So I think he's got 1 more year. Is that that would probably, I don't even know if you know the answer to this, Coach, but would that be the same with the actual cup itself? Could you potentially have somebody under 16? Yep. Do you know that?
As far as I'm concerned, I can have 5 under 16.
Really?
As long as they're good enough.
You pick who you want.
Team. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I heard it was an insurance issue is what it was. It comes from the headquarters of Matchroom through their policies. So I don't know for sure.
If that's the case, then that's the case. But I don't care about age or about it's all about level, commitment, discipline, being ready. And whoever the name is, when it comes up in November and the first 3 on the list, they will definitely qualify, and then we will look for 2 guys extra. Again, looking at the play that we can choose from. I mean, you can name the names also yourself. I mean, we have a pretty strong backbone in our team, to be honest.
Very.
So I'm completely convinced that we can actually do something in November and not be there and show up and take the prize money and lose 11-3.
Yeah, there's no question. I've said no question.
No. Yeah, so that's what we got to do.
Yeah, we're gonna have couple more questions for sure, Mosconi. But I want to talk a little bit about your history, right? You just touched on a little bit with Team Europe. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you're 8-1-1 in Mosconi. Is that right? Six European. You have 6 European titles in the Mosconi Cup, coach.
Yeah, I've done it 7 times. First time
1 ties, right?
And then draw. Brilliant idea of Barry to play 24 matches, not race to 12, because we were 12-10 up.
Right.
So, I thought we won, but no, we played 12-12. So and then we won 6 times in a row. Yeah.
Right.
And then simply again by putting in structure, boot camps, making agreements, making sure everybody was ready. And if you look at teams that I came up in 2017, 18, 19, especially 18, 19, that really looked like a sports team. That looked like everybody's committed, everybody was disciplined, everybody was taking care of business, focusing on the table instead of interacting with the audience and doing all kinds of shenanigans. We were there to play. I've always said this to my players: the show is for matchroom and the show is for the audience. We are here to do a sport event. We need to beat our opponent, and whether we celebrate with confetti or whether we just put our hand up, that doesn't matter. We're there to play the cup as a sport event. And the show can only live when the sport event is a good sport event. So that's
I like it. I can see the seriousness in what you're getting at. I love it. The intensity that you have already. It's unbelievable.
I don't compete to lose. Let's be honest, right? The first time they asked me for Team America, they did an interview, and I said, listen, they asked me because I'm an expert in winning, which was a bit of arrogant or like a bold remark, but that's what I am. I don't play to lose. It's not that I like winning that much. I hate losing. Absolutely, that can ruin my month if I lose something. So,
it can ruin my year.
Yeah, I can understand that with you guys. I get it.
And I definitely want to avoid that feeling. So,
all right, so
go ahead. I mean, listen. I mean, I think Coach will say this right away. The most important thing is that they're competitive, because if they can put themselves in a position to win, that's all you can ask for. It really is, right? And it's not been competitive for quite some time, sadly.
Yeah, and also because it's not being competitive, and there was a lot of reasons also in the COVID time. Also we lost a little bit of hope. It's obvious we lost belief. We were looking up to Team Europe like, oh, they're such a great team. Filler is such a good player, best player in history. Well, I don't care, because it's a race to 5, and the only thing I need, and I've told it before, the only thing I need is 5 guys that can run 5 racks of 9-ball from the break.
That's right.
And then I need to make sure that they do that.
Okay. All right. So after you win Europe so many times, you come to America and you lose the first year, you win the next 2 years. Yeah. I need to know what the biggest difference was coaching the 2 teams, and did it feel different, or did you handle the same way both teams? What's the difference when you switch sides?
Well, the first year I kind of did 3 boot camps, and then I already noticed that during the boot camps it was completely different than with my European teams, because obviously they were not used to doing boot camps and drills. So I kind of ran into the difference in culture, and so that's what we needed to solve in the next year. And I remember we had a 3-year plan, CCC, normally cool, calm, collected. We made it compete, conquer, consolidate. So we had to compete first year, then we had to win, and then we had to do it again. And after the first year, I think it was 11-4, Emily said, it needs to be competitive next year. And I said, listen, the 11-4 loss only means I have more information on how not to go about. So, the plan for next year will still be to win. And that's why we turned everything around. I basically set my way or the highway. If you don't commit to that program, Russia, Holland, Euro Tour, then you're not going. And took me a little bit of conversation with a lot of players. And in the end, everybody committed. And we did that program. And listen, we played the Kremlin Cup. We won the Kremlin Cup, Tyler. We played the Dream Challenge. We were 7-4 down in a race to 8. We won 8-7. We played the Euro Tour. Three American guys in the last 8. Shane plays the final against Kachi, gets 6-0 down in a race to 9 and wins 9-7. Then we play an international team just before the Mosconi Cup preparation. Send 4 down again. Come back and win 8-7. We won everything in that preparation towards the Mosconi Cup. So that created a lot of belief, and also a lot of like, it doesn't matter we're behind, we can still come back. And that attitude I didn't see this year. Once we were behind, that was it.
That's
Okay,
great.
Yeah,
That's
good
great
stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff right there.
And I remember all that real well. I was following that.
Yeah, it was great stuff. When you go to pick 2 players, right? Obviously, you can't give your secrets, but give us a little hint. What's most important to you when you're picking a player? Is it, the ability to win, attitude? Is there anything you can pinpoint that you would say, if you're 2 guys, you'd lean one way? What is your picking point for picking a player?
So first of all, you need absolutely the level. You need to be competitive, but you just need to be absolute top level player. And then you have a couple of choices in the end. And for me, it has a lot to do with whether it feels good in the team, whether whether someone can integrate in the team really well. Because sometimes when you only have like big shooters, sometimes it's good to bring a guy in that has a lot of feel in his stroke. So in the practice room, when we practice, this guy's constantly showing the other guys how to relax, for example, right? So it's not only the level, because everybody who will be picked has the level, but it's also, does he fit into this team? Does he bring something extra? Does he help the other guys? Is he humble, or is he, what kind of place do I already have? I can't have like 3 chain for bonings. That doesn't work. Because
I think I told you this like a year ago. I don't know when we were talking. But if I'll say it, I feel, because I do know these guys quite well. I'm around them a lot. I know you know them well. I feel like almost, and I'm just going to say it, I feel like almost setting I'm not going to call any names out, but setting 2 guys in a room, and I'm sitting with them, and we talk about their when they grew up, how they grew up, were they close with their parents, were they not? We talk about pretty much everything from A to Z. I don't care if it takes an hour. I don't care if it takes 6 hours. We don't leave that room until these 2 guys know everything about one another. I mean everything. And I feel that's vital. I personally, in a couple of situations, I think that's really important. And then you take a couple other guys that you think are important to do that with. And by the time you're done with that, then you have all the guys. I'm talking about once the team is there. Then you take all the guys, and you just kind of have a round table conversation. And everybody, I think, I want your opinion on that, because I don't know your process, I don't know what you do, but when you're talking about egos, because all elite players have them. I wasn't an elite player playing 9-ball. I don't think I'll be the first to say that, but I think I was in the sport that I played. I think that's very important. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes we talk too much, because let's be honest, the Americans players do know each other. They all play together.
But I do think, Coach. I don't think I know there's underlying animosity, I guess would be a good word. I know there's some underlying issues that I think need addressed. If you know these issues, then that's the thing you got to address, right? I don't need to know whether they stay close to their parents or whatever. I need to know what is their relationship to each other. Okay, for me, that kind of goes back to the respect, though, right? Like understanding each other's backgrounds and where they came from and what they went through to get where they're at. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, but that's what you do when you do a team bonding boot camp. That's where these things come up, right? Boys talk. So these things will come up, and it's sometimes some things. I know I had a couple of times in Team Europe. I had some guys that were very emotional about a couple of things that happened in their life, and that it suddenly came up during the practices. Yeah, it immediately gave an extra feeling to the team that we played for something else. Imagine that someone lost his father or mother or uncle, whatever, just before the Mosconi Cup, right? Then that creates an extra goal, an extra
Absolutely.
similarity that we can.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically what you need to find, the similarities. If you would focus on the differences, we can focus the whole day. There's so many differences between these players, but we need to find the common ground. We need to find the similarities and go from there, and then hope that everybody understands. There's only one way that you can support your partners in the team, and that's making sure that he is on his best too, because that's in your interest, that he plays at his best. So if you do something that annoys him, you're not gonna be as a team be a good team. So that's the small things that we gotta we call it the sting from the bee. You gotta get the sting out, and then make sure that everybody shifts in a little bit from his own character, and take into consideration what helps the other players. And if you all are able to do that, and that's what I call commitment, if you're able to do that as a team, then you will actually be very supportive, and you can actually grow in 4 days to a really top level.
Okay, very good. I guess cohesiveness is what you're looking for, and all that good stuff. And I think it makes a big difference. And I feel for Team USA, they've missed that for a while. And even when Jason's in the press conference talking about them, he talks about the different time when they spend together and all the stuff they do together. So I guess that's what you're going to be working on. I'm excited for Team USA this year. How much pressure does it put on you, knowing that Team USA has been almost what's the word I'm looking for? Not been great the last couple of years, and we've been talked down a lot. Team USA, how much pressure does that put on you to come in and turn it around? Does it put extra pressure on you because we haven't done so well the last couple of years?
Pressure is what makes you come out of bed in the morning, right? That makes you motivated. If the challenge is bigger, I will work harder. That's why in 2014 I left Team Europe, because there was no challenge anymore. We won it 5 times in a row, and I was like, okay, this is done, task fulfilled. Let's do something else. This challenge is probably the biggest one so far in all my Mosconi Cup years, but it's okay. It's okay. The pressure, what they say, pressure builds or creates diamonds. So let's create a diamond.
That's right.
That's good. That's good. I got to say, I'm really excited again about this year in Mosconi. I think with you being captain now, and there's a new sense of life. Last year, I almost got a feel people were just like, we're not going to win. USA's not going to win. Well, all the stuff that you're saying and all the stuff that you're implementing is going to bring the new life into USA. And of course, we're all going to be there in Orlando. And I'm super excited.
Don't lie, Bobby, right? Numbers don't lie. Like 2018, 2019. This is the guy that was leading the team. I've said this since day one. I don't care. I shouldn't say I don't care. If an American doesn't like the fact that somebody from Europe is coaching our team, but they also don't like the fact that we're getting absolutely blistered every time we go there and embarrassed, right? Like I take it personal. And I think a lot of fans take it personal because we're representing our country. Where do you go? You have to go to the guy that's done it.
Well, talking about the fans, I really also count on the fans to be there every day from day one and ball one and leg one and break one, because we need them. Obviously, we're on the back foot. We don't have the highest confidence. We lost 6 times in a row. In the last 15 years, we only won twice. So it's not that we are in the best situation. So we need every support that we can. And I hope that the American people, audience and fans will be there, and that they will give us an extra spark, an extra motivation. Then when we walk into this arena and we see all these American flags and American fans, they will think, okay, we need to do this. We need to be at our best. So an extra spark from the fans will be absolutely welcome.
Coach, 2 years ago in Orlando, and I can credit all the fans that we have, and it has grown substantially over the last, I would say 3 or 4 years, even though we're taking the losses. The 2 years ago in Orlando, I was commentating a specific match. This happened the entire time. It was I was working with the VIPs, so I didn't commentate as much. It's insane, and I know the fans with you being there. Listen, whether whether they care or don't care about you being captain, they have really turned out, and I know this is going to be. They're going to be there for you. They're going to be there for you. I promise you.
Yeah,
I promise.
and I'm glad we're in America, because I've always felt that the American audience is so much more knowledgeable than the European crowd. They are just there to drink and shout and do stupid shit. The American crowd is there for the sport. So that's what I always appreciated much more in America than in England. But hey, both have its own character. But I really like that we're in Florida this time.
Awesome.
That's a big statement right there, and I know the American fans will appreciate that. You know, and of course, winning cures everything, right? As long as we win, that's the main thing. Give us the effort, and that's what we're looking for.
Otherwise,
all right, Scott. I mean that.
Yeah. I mean, Coach, we didn't want to take up a lot of your time, and it's already been over an hour. And we filled a lot of questions, a lot of gaps. Really, I don't know. You know how I feel. You know, a lot of people. I quit campaigning quite a while ago because I was really hoping that it was. I know the job is so heavy, and if somebody doesn't take it that serious from America and understand this isn't about being selfish, it's vital that you're in this position, and I know it's the right position, and I just hope that everybody else understands that it's definitely the right position, and I can assure everybody it will be competitive this year in Orlando.
Well, first of all, thank you also, because I know from 2017 we've been talking. We stood, I think it was a WGD Classic. We stood outside. I came to you and said, "Listen, we need to talk." And since then, you've always supported my line of work, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you, Scott.
My pleasure. Yep. Much respect. Much respect.
Yeah. Thank you again as well. We really appreciate coming on, and I just want to reiterate what Scott said too, because even in Europe last year, you know what I mean. Scott was commentating and doing everything else, and I could see in his face how frustrated he was with, you know, the team. It's in our heart, it's in our emotion, and I think we got the right guy. I mean, our track record is second to none, and we're super excited to see what's going to happen this year. Thank you again for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yes, you're welcome. Let's make it a good one.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
Go,
all right.
Ruysink!
That's right.